Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Pick Six Podcast. I am your host, DPZ, and with me I got my buddy Dustin, and we are here for another episode, a quick flash episode. I had to pull over off the freeway after a meeting, and in between meetings is Dustin. We're just squeezing this sucker in on a Friday. Looking forward to talking some sports cards real quick, take a little break, a little mental break from all the craziness that our life is outside of sports cards. We envy all you crazy people that get to do this for a living. Maybe we don't, maybe we do, but it's still fun. Hey, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. And thanks for. I didn't realize you were going to have to pull out of traffic to make the call happen. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. We got back from Mexico from our family trip like Tuesday at midnight, and then it was back to work for my wife and I Wednesday morning. So it was like, and you know how it is, like traveling all day. I couldn't like just get home and go to sleep. So I had to take like an hour, kind of like go through emails and just get like, kind of get my head back in the game. So I've got like no sleep all week. And so hoping to try to, get a good sleep tonight, get a good night's sleep tonight.
There you go. Yeah, no, we were going to try to get you on an episode, with a few cocktails deep, sitting on the beach, soaking it up and seeing how you really feel about the hobby. But we decided that we would save your face a little bit there and maybe venture away from that kind of opportunity. But I was thinking about how fun that could be with a slightly buzzed Dustin spouting off what he really thinks about everybody. But
I don't know, man. Sober Dustin's been going off the last couple of days.
You have. Let's recap some of that here, because I mean, what's been getting you all fired up, man?
Oh, I think it's just kind of like a slow burn, like that's happened over time. And then it's just finally, and honestly, that they're not new conversations. The one that I talked about a couple of days ago just bugged me. It was Jeff Wilson interviewed Josh Luber, and Josh Luber is kind of one of those guys that just like, he just annoys me kind of he was running. And I think part of it is I'm a Stranger Things card collector, and he was running Zero Cool, and they made some cool Stranger Things cards, but I don't know if he was the one that decided to leave or if Ruben booted him out. I don't know what the story is there, but he got all this playtime and fanfare and everything. As part of he's at the Mint Collective on stage talking about all this stuff, and then all of a sudden he's gone, and then now he runs some sort of ghost ride selling action figures. Like Gary Vee's got his stupid stuffed animals, and now we got Josh's stuffed animals. So I was just like, you know what? I'll do a video on this. So
I feel you. I just there's obviously a percentage of the hobby which is pretty small that likes to dictate and just feel like they can jump in, command your attention, control it, and then just dip out and leave whenever you want. And then you got people that are on, the ground level talking about the hobby, having these conversations, casting out opinions, entering the dialogue, and engaging other collectors in these conversations. That it is day in, day out. I mean, you're one of them that does it daily. I mean, the Luca Tigers guys did it daily. I think Cage is doing more shows now. There's a consistency there. The crossover guys every week. There's a consistency in a lot of these shows that I believe it's sort of like the heartbeat of the hobby, right? And I just don't listen to those people. I mean, I know you're buddies with Jeff, and Jeff seems like a nice guy, but I don't really watch his videos. I really am engaged in collector content. I like to know what the average collector's thinking, because the way I see it is those are the people that are going to keep this hobby afloat for the next 10 to 20 years and beyond, are the people that are wanting to hold on to their cards long term, that appreciate the cards they have more than the dollar that they cost. Which is, I don't know if everybody's that way. I think a lot of folks are like, holy cow, I'd rather have $5,000 than have this card, or I'd rather have $500 than have this card. And I believe that mentality, while it's important to always be fiscally responsible, it sort of divides or casts a division between a collector and sort of a prospector or an investor. And when we talk about that terminology, it gets sort of cloudy, and I don't know who those people are and how they're influencing and dictating the hobby. And I kind of worry about that because how does that influence the bedrock of the hobby community, which are those collectors, those people that love opening packs with their kids, that love putting together sets, that love putting together collections, PCing a player, a team, whatever it may be. I worry about that community and what this potential manipulation that could occur by these people that may not be as married to the hobby are causing. And it's sometimes it's just easy to push it aside. And something else to think about. I'm going on a rant here, but something else to think about. You are what you consume. So I'll give you honest. I'll just give you an honest take on or an example of that. So the last like week or two, I've been mostly consuming, spiritual content because I just wanted to, and I felt like I needed to kind of ground myself. I wasn't watching a lot of sports card content. I instead of pressing the button on, I'm going to watch, some of these shows. Sorry, Dustin. Some of these shows, I'm going to spend that time I do have while commuting, maybe in prayer or in engaging in spiritual content that's going to help me firm me up and inspire me in a different way, motivate me in a different way. And it did. And my mentality changes. I start thinking about things differently. I start looking at things differently. It just slowly sort of transforms your mentality or your mindset. Keep that in that happens with the content you consume, right? So I'm just consuming that content, so that happens. If you're consuming content all about sports cards all the time, and if you're consuming content about investing in cards or buying and selling, flipping, whatever, or even collecting and feeling like you got to go get this next big card, and we all fall victim to it. I fall victim to it all the time. But you get excited and inspired, and then maybe spend money you normally wouldn't spend. I start wondering that how valuable it is to protect your mind and the content that you absorb, because it influences you to do things that you might not normally do, even in a good way. The spiritual content is a good thing for me anyway. It's a good thing that inspires me to do and think in a different way, in a higher plane that's better for me and for everybody else. Now, for card collecting, you get excited about this great episode talking about this great set and these cards that are undervalued or underappreciated. Next thing you know, you're searching for them on eBay. I know I do. And you're like getting kind of excited going, hey, well, that's kind of interesting. And basically, if their job is to tell you about this product or get you excited about it, it works a lot of the time. I know there's some people out there go, oh, I never get influenced by anything. I just don't do any. I'm so perfect. I do nothing wrong. I know all you guys out there in the comment section that are absolutely perfect and never do that. I think there's like 3 people that comment on our videos a lot that always have something snarky to say because they would never do that. They live on an island that they've bought with cash because they never borrowed anything. All their money in an honest way. They never stepped over anybody. They never swore in their entire life. They give money to people in Haiti, all these wonderful things. And they have these basic card collections. But outside of those absolutely perfect people, and you guys know who I'm talking about, I think we got to be mindful of the content we consume because it does influence us. And when you talk about some of these people that we're talking about now that are constantly pumping out that content, they're influencing people to do things they may not want to do. Sorry. End rant, off soapbox, Dustin's turn.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Actually, if I go back a year or two, I was consuming a lot more card content in general, and it's now like it's probably 10% of what I used to. Kind of like to what you were. I think one thing that I do like, I'll get turned on to channels that are talking about niche things that they focus on, and some might say like, oh, well, they're just pumping what they like or own or whatever. But I actually like to listen to why people are buying or collecting or speculating on certain cards. I know you brought up like the PMG channel or a couple of these channels. I like to listen to those guys and other kind of similar channels. I've got like 80 Star Basketball channel. One of my buddies, Ryan, he runs it. And there's a lot of focus around the Star 101, but he's talking about all star cards. So I get to learn about all sorts of different star cards, and I like kind of these little niche channels because you can't cover all of it. Like I can't cover all of it on my channel. Nobody can cover all of it or even wants to for that matter. So it's kind of nice to find those little like pockets and then just listen to like, why do they like those cards? What is it about them that is special to them? And then, you can kind of like tie that into your overall knowledge of stuff. I've really stopped paying attention to auction watch type stuff, auction results stuff. To me, it's almost kind of like, I know stocks are not the same as cards. It's not what I'm saying, but it's kind of like, do I really need to know on a day to day, week to week basis of where, the, 90s insert cards are, or, what vintage cards are, whatever it is? Not really. Like, it's for me, I'm kind of like, I'm going to buy the card. I'm going to sit on it. I don't look at what my Apple stock is doing every day or every week, let alone my cards,
Yeah.
like, so the auction watch stuff, I pretty much eliminated all of that stuff out. But yeah, no, it's definitely limited. I watch a lot of YouTube, but it's a bunch of like random other YouTube stuff that has nothing to do with cards at all. So
So let me ask you this question. So when you're watching, say, that star podcast that talks more about star cards, do you ever find yourself kind of looking up prices for the John Stockton or the Charles Barkley, or do you find yourself kind of going down that path and looking up what those prices are, getting maybe inspired a bit to maybe add to the collection of the stars that you have?
yeah, well, I think where I try to look for, I'm always, just like with anybody else, I'm trying to get the best stuff for the cheapest price. So a lot of what I'm doing is I'm kind of looking at, okay, if this is X and this is what, this is Y, like, is this like, it's kind of that undervalued game of like, is this the kind of like, does this feel inexpensive? Because right now I mean, I can speak for myself, and I think for a lot of people, I'm watching my card budget pretty closely. I'm pretty discerning with what I'm buying, and I'm very particular about what I'm going to buy. I've tried to be a lot less, impulsive, like, oh, I found this card, and then there's these other cards like the Stockton or the Olajuwon. I love to add the Stockton and the Olajuwon, the star cards, their first stars, but it's not a high priority for me. Like, I've got other priorities right now. And then also just life priorities right now are hitting. I've got two kids that are in college, so I'm trying to manage. We've got money saved for tuition, that sort of thing. But I still am kind of being watchful, though, like, making sure I've got extra funds just as things pop up. So there's a lot of family stuff too.
Interesting stuff. So switching topics, let's talk about Victor Wembanyama and all of the different cards that are coming out. I I would I think there are too many, and the unlicensed stuff I just don't understand. Like, I can't wrap my mind around in my head around the amount of money being spent on those cards. I get nothing wrong, and there's nothing against unlicensed, but with this particular player, the amount of cards that are probably going to be coming out even later, the amount that are already out there, the amount of money that's being spent on this player, it reminds me of Luka, it reminds me of Zion. Is there is there a concern there? You obviously you have an opinion, but you also have a way to, you're going to add on to that. But I feel like that's a lot of money to be spending on a card or a player that has so many available, and that makes me nervous about the modern products and players and offerings. And we kind of go back to the collecting, cards that are less accessible and less produced. But I feel like the amount of money being spent on this player seems ridiculous. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is, and we've seen, people are dropping $10,000 on a Wemby card like it's nothing, and I think that if we're making comparisons, I mean, we have the benefit of hindsight when we're looking at a Michael Jordan card that's $10,000, or Ken Griffey Jr., it's $10,000. You already know not only that the player is going to work out and have a great career, not only that part, but you also know which cards are the important cards, like years later. And that's to me, that's the biggest problem. We don't know if the player's going to work out. We think that he will. It's showing all the stuff that he will. Secondly, the supply issue that you just mentioned, as far as like, what's what, they keep on making more. It seems like every few weeks, it's like, we got another Wemby set coming out. And you're like, oh my God, how many autographs did this guy sign? And then, of course, you have the Panini Topps battle, where it's, okay, do I buy the Prism Golds? Do I buy the autograph cards? Like, what's going to be the important Wemby cards in 10, 15, 20 years? And nobody's going to be able to really answer that. So you're talking about risk like everywhere. There's risk all over the place. And that's why I think I, and a lot of people, we're certainly not alone in the take, but it's like, if you're going to spend 5-10 grand, that's big money for a lot of people, or even more than that. It just seems a lot safer, in quotation marks, to go with, a Michael Jordan card that's $10,000 that, like, okay, I kind of have a feel for like a price history on this. I have a feel for what the hobby feels about this particular card, and that's where there's so many question marks, and it doesn't seem like, I think maybe a lot of people think, well, oh, the Panini and the Topps thing, that's going to get sorted out here in the next couple of years once Topps takes over and they've got the license. But it really is just probably going to flip-flop the thing to where Panini is now unlicensed, Topps Chrome is now licensed or whatever, but Panini will be making probably awesome unlicensed cards, and they're going to have their own folks that they sign to exclusive deals. So Topps will have their people. Panini, Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is one of the biggest hobby names right now for cards. She's a Panini person. She is signed to Panini. So, are you buying Top stuff for her? Or when they have the license, are you buying Top stuff? Are you buying the Panini autos? It's like, what's it going to be? What's going to be the stuff that people want down the road? And nobody knows that. So it's just such a massive risk.
I mean, you said it all perfectly. I don't really have much to add to that. I think based on what I said and what you said, you pretty much closed the case on that. So I think, yeah, you want to be careful with modern cards. You want to be careful with any modern player and the amount of product they're going to be appearing in and how many autos are going to be. And the serial number doesn't really matter if there's, 14 different products with, serial numbering on them and autos. And so you can get caught in that trap. But moving along, I want to ask last question. And I want to also ask the comment section to contribute to this, engage in this question. Recently, we've seen a lot of different sets getting a lot of love. So you kind of, it starts out with the PMGs. Everybody's buying PMGs. Then it's Essential Credentials, Star Rubies, the 24 karat gold, then Exquisite. There seems to be a hot moment for a lot of those sets. And I'm curious, is there a set out there that you feel like could be undervalued and next in line that's going to strike the nostalgia button, that's going to be a flight to quality for people that are getting frustrated with all these Victor Wembanyama autos that they realize they're not worth as much as they thought they're going to be? Where do those people go next, or people our age anyway that are playing around on that? What's that set that is yet to be appreciated that should be in your mind?
Man, and this is not a question I got beforehand, so this is just right off the cuff. And
it has to be. That's the point.
I have
what
no
comes
idea.
To your mind?
I have no idea that. Okay, so what I will say is, I think that a lot of people have already gone the Prism Gold route. That's clear. It's the Black Finites and it's the Prism Golds. But I think especially when we're looking at 2012 to 2018, maybe 17, but I throw 2018 into that mix too. I feel like 2020 is when like print runs and everything went bonkers and parallels. 2018 it did too, but I think 2012 to 2018 is, I think if you look at like tie-dyes out of 25, if you're looking at kind of like, everyone's so focused on the one of ones and the out of tens, but I've got like Drew Brees tie-dyes that are like 2014, 15 that are out of 25, or I can't remember which one's out of 50. And it's not to say that they're mega rare cards, but I feel like for a lot of players, that's kind of like the next thing. If the Prisms and the Black Finites are $1 zillion, but people want Prism, they want 2012, 2018, they're just kind of searching for that rarity, then I think there's still some, and again, I'm speculating. Obviously, we're just having fun with this conversation, and I'm literally just thinking about it off the top of my head. But, I don't think out of 25 is like, now like a 2023 product, out of 25 is garbage, because you've got out of 25, you got out of 20, you got out of 18, 15, 12, like you already have like a zillion parallels leading up to 25. But 2012 up to, I would say 18, it's still fairly limited as far as, the parallels go. And I just think that I wonder, because you're seeing this happen. We saw this. I don't know if you saw that on Fanatics Collect. There's a Dan Marino essential credentials. It's out of 8. It's at like $100,000. I think it ends tonight or tomorrow or something. It's Dan Marino, which I love Dan Marino, great player. But this is kind of like, this would be like a Breeze card going for $100,000. It's like a Breeze card is going to sell for $100,000. That would be insane. But you could argue that Breeze had just as, if not a better career. He's got a Super Bowl title than Dan Marino. And you could argue he's got a similar collector base to a Dan Marino. I know that there are a lot of Dan Marino card collectors, so I'm not downplaying that. But it's just the point of like, okay, if people are really going to sink big money and not necessarily into Jordan and Kobe and kind of the usual suspects, and they're going to go off and they're going to do Brett Favre and Dan Marino, if those are now 6-figure cards, for the essential credentials, then I think you do have to look at, I guess, kind of like, to me, it's going to be Prism. I do think that people are going to look back and have nostalgia for Prism over time. It's not necessarily going to be, 2023 teal Prisms, but I think it's going to be kind of like that first 5-6 years where it wasn't popular. 2012 came out, nobody bought it. It's kind of like the same story with like 86 Fleer, where they put it out, nobody bought it. They had like cases that were being sent back to Fleer because they couldn't sell it. And then all of a sudden, over the next few years, it starts to really pick up steam. So I think that for me, I think it's Prism, and there's been such a heavy focus on gold. But I do think that, there's only 10 golds. There's only going to be, there's only so many of those that can be sold. And so then if you're the rest of the crowd, what are your options? So I have to assume that demand for kind of those other, like the tie-dyes and some of the other options, moves up. But that's pure speculation. I'm pulling that out of my butt. So there you go.
Well, could have gone without hearing how you're pulling that out of your butt, but that's all right, man. I'm glad you. Well, no, that's the whole point, though. I wanted you to answer without thinking about it and doing the homework, and because what came to your mind first was that, and that's your authentic response. I mean, if you sat and thought about it for a while, you're probably going to mention 89 Score, because we all know how you love that set. So
sure.
You actually spoke from top of your head. You're thinking about it, front of mind. Ironically, I'm gonna agree with you, but I'm gonna zoom in on just one set. I think 2012 Prism is gonna be. I think that set is gonna be a big deal down the road. And again, I know we're joking around about influencers and now everybody going. So I command you to not go look up these cards. Don't go buy any. Please don't go buy any. I don't really care. But I believe the Panini Prism cards, like so the refractors from Prism, not necessarily just the gold, but just the refractors. I think those cards. I think set collectors are going to want to put a set together of the Prisms in a like PSA graded set registry. That's an incentive there. It's kind of fun to do that. I think people are going to PC their favorite player. I think most players, even non-playing day players, are in that set. I know David Robinson has a Prism in that set. Full disclosure, I own his PSA 10 Panini Prism card, so that refractor card is really cool.
So you're talking about silver Prisms, the silver Prisms from
silver Prisms. Yeah, the silver Prisms, because what's going to happen is Panini's going to go away, and just like everything else, my daughter's wearing baggy jeans with holes in them. She's wearing, their hair's looking like the 90s. It's all
Jinkos are back. Jinkos are back. The mullet hair, Bobby Witt, all that weird stuff. I still don't get that. That's coming back. So it all comes around. I think what'll happen is, 10 years from now, I always usually like 10 years because the cycle's usually 10 years. 10 years from now, people are going to look back. You're going to have Topps doing their thing. It's going to be all Fanatics, and people are going to have this like sort of nostalgia for 2020, everything that went on, the whole Prism thing. Prism's gone, the first Prism set. People are already talking about it now, but I think you're not going to find Panini silver Prisms in that set. I think the set collectors are going to start gobbling them up. I think PC player collectors are going to start buying them. I think team collectors are going to start buying them, and I think in general people will just want to have cards from that set because it's such a big set. Honestly, I think it'd be kind of cool just to try to put together the whole collection, like a set of just 2012 Panini Prism, just not the silvers, but just Panini Prism and PSA. That'd be like some great PSA 8 or whatever. That would be kind of cool. I'm not sure how produced they were. I mean, I'm doing 87 Fleer, and that they produced the daylights out of that, so it's probably much less than that. That is as an idea. I just think 2012 Prism is going to get a lot of love. The golds are obviously already important. They've already reached status that it's pretty intense. But I just think the silvers are really cool in hand. It's an important hobby set. So like from 12, you've got like gold, black finite, green, and red die cut, and that's it. So I mean, it could be like even like greens. Like people are like green Prisms are trash, but it could be like. But there's just not, I mean, in comparison to parallels moving forward, they're still fairly rarish. I mean, like, Yeah. So I mean, it could be something. You never know. In cards, like who knows? But I agree with you that the 2012 set and the basketball. I've got football here, obviously, but the Steph Curry and there's a lot of big players out of that 12 Prism basketball set.
Well, yeah, and football, basketball. I think what's cool about that set, you got I think you have the unlicensed baseball. I don't know if I'd put that in the same category. I think that the baseball and basketball, or football and basketball, are going to be just monsters. I think the green and the red, those are all really cool. And the reason I left those out is because people feel differently about the colors, right? I think if it's a color match, then you're going to love that card in a red or a green, right? It's going to be great. But Philadelphia Eagles, if you're red and you can just put the teams together, Houston Rockets, whatever. I think there's something about the silvers.
Oh no, totally. I agree with you.
Taking away the production numbers, the how many they were produced versus some of the colors. There's just something really sharp and clean, and they pop. They're just different, and they're just simple. And I think there's going to be a desire for those. It's like the first refractor. It checks a lot of boxes. It's the first set for Prism. It's the first Prism refractor. It's like that's their version of it. And then we went down that road. I think, like the 94 finest or 93 finest refractors are really important because of the first refracted technology and all that stuff. It just gets crazy after that because there's refractors everywhere, tons of refractors. So you just gonna get lost in them. And the same thing with Panini. But the 2012, 93 tops chrome, or 93 tops finest, 96 tops chrome, the first matter, and then you take the players that matter, highest grade possible, silver, simple. Like you said, less offerings for parallels. A recipe for success, in my opinion. I think it will be, hopefully it's slow, because I'd love to pick up a few more. I hope it's a slow grow, but they're really cool cards, in my opinion. Anyway,
yeah,
that's all I got. What do you say? What say you before we jump off?
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of an interesting one. And you could even look, yeah. All right, now I'm looking stuff up, so I'm just going to leave it alone so I can go buy some things. No, I'm kidding. but yeah, no, I love the Silver Prism. I love the Silver Prism talk because I agree that 2012 Silver Prism, and it's got a cool design too. The 12, at least it's a great design. Some of the years you can like 2013 is not as good as 12, I don't think. But yeah, no, I'm with you on the Silver Prism stuff. I think that's going to come back around. You got to think about what are the kids going to want, and all the kids, like you said, over the last 5 years. It's been all about silver prisms and, prism this and prism that. And unless Ruben and the gang buys Panini, I don't really see it happening. I think it's just too much of a battle. But yeah, I think that's I agree with you. The nostalgia on the prism stuff.
I think it's safe even if he bought them because it's the first issuance of the card.
Yes.
It's going to actually that would almost help it. So I mean, either way, you're safe. In my opinion. I don't want to use the word safe in the hobby ever in my life. You're fine, and you'll be in an interesting position. Let's say that. I just love how this whole thing came full circle because I had you looking up Panini Prism cards on eBay during the show. That's how influenced you were based on our own conversation. So I mean, we're trying not to influence other people. We can't even stop influencing ourselves because I'm going to get off the phone before I drive away and probably look up a few of them myself because I kind of want to see where they are in football. I totally forgot about football. Oh my gosh, we are terrible. But you know what we are for sure? We're collectors. We love cards. We love collecting them. We love talking about them, especially to you. Thank you for taking the time to join with us today. Talk about this stuff. Engage. Comment below. Tell us what you think. What's the one set? If it's not the sets that Dustin and I swear to God, we didn't talk about this ahead of time, seem to really think are going to be valuable, the next big set, the next big push. What set do you think that is, in your opinion? If you're Nostradamus and you could see into the future and this is the set, which one would it be? And does it check all the boxes for you? Subscribe, check out all the affiliate links, click on everything so Dustin can get paid. and he's a happy camper over there. We have fun talking to you. Take care. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you all soon.
See you guys.